Hi guys, it's your favorite girl, Style by Tay. I'm back. Anyways, I know I've been away. I've been very inconsistent for the longest time, and I'm sorry about that. I am going to do better moving forward. So without wasting much of your time today, I'm going to be doing a tutorial on this outfit. It's actually simple, very easy to do, very beginner friendly. Yeah, like I said earlier, I've been away far too long, but I would still want to appreciate the OGs, the people that have stuck by me. Thank you guys so much. And if you're new to this channel, if this is going to be the first time that you're seeing my face, please do well to leave me a comment, and definitely subscribe. Turn on your notification bell so you get notified when I post videos like this. Let's get into the video.
So the first thing to do is make sure that your fabric is on fold, which you can see here. Next, I'm going to draw a starting line from which all my body measurements would be taken lengthwise. After that, I'm going to mark the full length of this blouse. For this, I used about 23 inches. After that, I'll be marking my bust point, which is 10 inches. And then roll a line on that point, and then proceed to mark my waist length measurement, which is 16 inches. And also roll a line on that point. I'm going to divide my shoulder measurement by 2 and mark that on the starting line. Next, I'm going to mark the neck width, which is 3 inches. This is the back piece, so the neck depth for this is going to be 1 inch. I'm going to go ahead to mark that out and proceed to draw the neck curve. Now we're going to go ahead to slant our shoulder, which I'll be doing with 1 inch, just as you can see me do, and I'll be using my ruler to connect that back to the neck width. Now from the point where I marked the shoulder slant, I'm going to mark my armhole measurement. And to get your armhole measurements, just in case you've forgotten, is your armhole divided by 6 plus 1.5. I'm going to mark that out, and that would become my chest line. So on that point, I'm going to mark my round bust measurement divided by 4, and I'll be using 1 inch for my sewing allowance. I'm going to proceed to mark my round body measurements divided by 4 on each point, which is the waist and then the full length of the blouse. I'll now then use my ruler to roll out a line on the marked point. After that, the next thing I'm going to do is to draw out the armhole, and to do that, we're going to place our tape rule from where the slanted shoulder point is to the chest line, and then divide what we have there by 2 and go inwards by 0.5, just as you can see me do, and then draw out the armhole curve. Now on the hem towards the side, go upwards by 2 inches or 2.5 and use your curve ruler to connect it into the initial line, just for it to have that blended curve. I had no idea that my camera was not capturing that point, and afterwards you can then proceed to cut out. This is it for the back piece. It's time to cut out the front piece. So here I have my fabric on fold already. Now what I'm going to do is mark 1 inch towards the center front, which is going to serve as the button area. I'm going to mark the 1 inch all the way to the full length of the blouse, and afterwards I'm going to use my ruler to make a line on the marked point. Next, I'm going to mark my bust point, which is 10 inches, and my waist length, which is 16 inches. We already have the full length of the blouse, and I'm going to go ahead to roll a line on the marked point. After that is done, I am going to mark my shoulder measurement divided by 2, and I'm going to be placing my tape from the 1 inch line I kept for the button area. Next, I'm going to mark my neck width of 3 inches and the neck depth of 3 inches as well. Afterwards, I'm going to use my curve ruler to draw out the neck curve and then proceed to slant the shoulder with 1 inch. And then from that slanted point, I'm going to draw out the armhole length, which is your bust divided by 6 plus 1.5. That's what you use to get that. And then on that point, that becomes our chest line. On that point, I'm going to mark my round bust measurement divided by 4, and I'll be adding my 1 inch sewing allowance. Remember that all your measurements are to start from the 1 inch line you kept for the button area. Next, I'm going to mark out the armhole curve. It's the same thing, just measure from the shoulder slant to the chest line, divide what you have there by 2 and go inwards by 0.5. After that, use your armhole curve to draw out a line on the marked points. Next, I'm going to mark my round waist measurements divided by 4, and I'll be adding 1 inch. We don't need a dot for this. On the full length of the blouse as well, I'm going to mark my hip measurement divided by 4 plus 1 inch sewing allowance. Then I'm going to use my ruler to draw out a line on the marked points. Now let's get into the business of the day. So from the hem of the blouse, which is the full length, I'm going to come down by 4 inches and then use my ruler to extend the line. If you remember from the inspo, the front was longer than the back and had a slanted shape. So that is why we're coming down by 4 inches from the full length. After that, on that point where we came down by 4 inches on the full length of the blouse, I'm going to come outward by 2 inches, just as you can see me do. So that is how wide the opening is going to be. Came out by 2 inches, and on the waistline, I came down by 2 inches. So I'm going to use my ruler to connect all these points. Remember, I said I came down from the full length of the blouse by 4 inches. On that point, I came outward towards the side front by 2 inches, and then on the waistline as well, I came down by 2 inches. Now the next thing we're going to do is to just blend out the curve on the full length of the dress. So like I said, just go up by 2 inches on the side, and then we use the curve ruler to connect it to the 2 inches that we came outward with. This is going to be the new full length of this blouse. I hope that makes sense. You can just watch closely and follow the steps, but yeah, it's not difficult. It doesn't seem difficult as it may sound. So that's basically it for the front part of this blouse. I'm going to proceed now to cut out, but one more thing. Remember I said I came downward from the waistline by 2 inches. That would not give you as much opening as you would want. So if you do not want that, you don't have to come downward from the waistline by 2 inches, and it will still be just perfect. I'm just going to cut open the folded edge, which we kept for the button area, and I just figured that the slanted line, I did not take it all the way to the folded edge. It stops at the 1 inch line for the button area. That is a mistake. Please make sure that your slanted line gets to the very end of the fabric, just as you can see me do. Now that is corrected, we're going to continue the cutting. So you just cut on the line and take it all the way to the side. I hope that makes sense. So please just watch closely so you don't get confused. So this is what the front looks like by the time we open it up, as well as the back. I'm going to go ahead now to cut lining pieces, just as you can see I have already done. Now we're going to place the back piece. We'll start with that first. We'll place the lining and the main fabric right sides facing each other. I'm going to head over to the machine and stitch down the hem, stitch down the sides with 1/2 inch, and also the neckline. We're not going to stitch down the shoulder. I'm going to keep that aside and repeat the same process on the front piece for each part. You know the front piece is 2. We're going to stitch down the hem, stitch down the side, as well as
the button area, which is the center front and the neckline. This is what we have here after I was done sewing. I also went ahead to give this a very good press. You can see that I closed up the armhole because the initial plan was to make it sleeveless, but I changed my mind at the latter. So I'm just going to place the front and the back piece together, right sides facing each other, and pin down the sides. So we're going to go over to the sewing machine and sew the sides with the sewing allowance that we kept. And after that, I'm going to sew the shoulder with 1/2 inch, give this a good press, and come back to show you guys what the next step is. This is it after I was done sewing the sides and the shoulder. I also went ahead to give this a good press. Like I said earlier, you can see that the button area, which is the center front, is overlapping. Make sure that yours is also overlapping. The blouse is pretty simple, you can see, and as simple as it is very beautiful. It is a very beautiful piece. Okay, let's head on to the cutting of the sleeve. If you've watched until this point, do not forget to like and subscribe. For the sleeve, I have this piece of paper I'll be using to draft out the pattern. So the sleeve length for this is 4 inches. I'm going to roll a line on the marked point, and on that line I'm going to mark my round sleeve measurement. Should I call it the bicep, because it didn't go below that. And I have 12 inches, so I'm going to mark that. 12 inches divided by 2 is 6 inches. I added 1/2 inch sewing allowance. If you have enough fabric, you can do more than that. And on that point, I'm going to go downward by 1 inch and roll a line. So as you can see, I just extended the line just to make it visible enough for you guys to see. The reason why I came down by 1 inch is just so the sleeve can fit better. Now I'm going to take my curve ruler and connect that point into the initial line. Afterwards, I'm going to mark out my sleeve cap of 2.5 inches, and then from there just measure out my armhole following the same line. After I'm done marking out my armhole measurement, which is going to be 8 inches, I'm going to connect the marked point to the 1 inch line that is just below the sleeve length. Afterwards, I'm going to draw out the curve. So this is all for the drafting of the cap sleeve. Now I'm going to proceed to cut out. So when you're cutting out, leave 1/2 inch at the bottom, just as I'm pointing. That's going to be a folding allowance for the hem. So with that being said, I'm going to proceed to cut out. So watch closely and follow the process. I'm going to go ahead now to transfer this to my fabric and lining. So here's the fabric and the lining piece for each of the sleeve. Now I'm going to place them right sides facing each other and head over to my machine to stitch the hem with 1/2 inch. Press that down and turn it to the right side. And when I turn it to the right side, I'm just going to stitch the top part just so that it stays in place. I'm not closing the sides just yet. So this is what we have after closing the hem and the top part. Now I'm going to pin this to the armhole of the blouse from the center all the way around till we get to the side. After pinning it down, I'm going to head over to my machine and stitch this down with 1/2 inch. There's going to be a little space to close up just at the underarm, and you turn that right sides facing each other and close it up. And that is all for the cap sleeve. The final product for this blouse. Thank you guys so much for watching up until this point. Please do not forget to like, leave a comment, subscribe, and please share this video to your friends, your family, anyone you know
know would slay this outfit, you can send this tutorial to them just so they can also look as good as it does. Alright, so this is goodbye for now. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.